The exploration vessel Quantum Horizon drifted silently through the unremarkable star system, its sleek crystalline hull reflecting the dim light of a yellow-white star. Commander Zixtal, a seasoned Orion Collective explorer with 17 planetary surveys and 3 first-contact missions to his credit, reviewed the preliminary scans with practiced indifference. The third planet from the star appeared frustratingly ordinary. Blue oceans, white clouds, scattered landmasses, a Type 3 planetary environment that the Collective had catalogued thousands of times before. Zixtal's tentacle-like appendages moved across the holographic display, sorting through layers of planetary data with practiced efficiency. Initial atmospheric composition, he asked, not bothering to look at his junior science officer. Researcher Krell hesitated, which immediately caught Zixtal's attention. Hesitation was not a common trait among Collective scientists. Sir, the atmospheric readings are unusual. Zixtal's primary optical sensor focused on the young researcher. Unusual how? Krell manipulated the holographic display, bringing up a complex matrix of chemical and elemental compositions. The planet exhibits multiple technological signatures that seem incongruent with its apparent developmental stage. We're detecting radio emissions, satellite networks, and electromagnetic radiation that suggest a significantly more advanced technological capability than our initial scan suggested. This was interesting enough to draw Zixtal away from his standard survey protocols. The Collective had long developed a comprehensive method for categorizing emerging species. Planets were typically classified into clear developmental stages: pre-technological, early industrial, communication-capable, and space-capable. This planet seemed to be sending mixed signals. Run a comprehensive spectrum analysis, Zixtal commanded. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with. The next several hours became increasingly perplexing. The planet, which their star charts identified as Earth, showed capabilities that defied simple classification. Satellite networks covered the planet's orbital space. Multiple electromagnetic communication systems operated simultaneously. Most intriguingly, there were indications of complex technological infrastructure that suggested capabilities far beyond what the initial scans had revealed. They're using multiple communication protocols, Krell reported, his earlier hesitation replaced by genuine scientific excitement. Wireless networks, satellite communications, quantum encryption methods that are remarkably sophisticated. Zixtal's experience told him something wasn't adding up. If this species was so technologically advanced, why hadn't they made contact with the Galactic Collective? Why were they not responding to standard first-contact communication protocols? A series of intercepted communications provided the first real glimpse into the planet's nature. Unlike the structured, protocol-driven communications of most emerging species, these transmissions were chaotic, diverse, filled with what seemed like unnecessary complexity and emotional nuance. One particular transmission caught Zixtal's attention. It appeared to be a technical discussion about electromagnetic propulsion systems, but the conversation was so casually complex that it bordered on the absurd. The humans discussing the topic spoke as if they were talking about something as mundane as preparing a meal, yet the technical details suggested they were discussing principles of physics that most species would consider cutting-edge research. They're discussing railgun technology, Krell observed, but they're talking about it like it's a weekend project. Zixtal felt something rare for a Collective explorer: genuine curiosity. These humans were either monumentally overconfident or possessed technological capabilities that defied conventional understanding. Prepare a preliminary first contact report, he instructed Krell. But be certain to emphasize the potential complexity of this species. Something about these humans feels different. Little did Commander Zixtal know that his intuition was more accurate than he could possibly imagine. Humanity was about to introduce itself to the galaxy in a manner that would shatter every preconceived notion of technological development, diplomatic protocol, and interstellar potential. The quantum horizon continued its silent observation, unaware that it was witnessing the prelude to a first contact that would redefine galactic understanding forever. The Galactic Confederation's first official contact facility gleamed with millennia of diplomatic engineering. Constructed on a neutral moon orbiting a binary star system, the massive structure represented the pinnacle of interstellar negotiation technology. Holographic interfaces shimmered with translation matrices, adaptive environmental controls, and diplomatic protocol subroutines designed to welcome emerging species. Jack Thompson looked distinctly out of place. He stood at the entrance, a compact figure in a simple dark suit that seemed almost primitive compared to the flowing, bioluminescent robes of the alien delegates. His weathered hands carried a metal case that looked decidedly low-tech, a stark contrast to the advanced scanning equipment surrounding the facility. Commander Zixtal watched from the primary observation chamber, 3 sets of eyes tracking every movement of the human delegation. The preliminary reports had been confusing, a species that showed both remarkable technological potential and puzzling inconsistencies. This demonstration was meant to be a standard technological exchange, a ritualistic process that had welcomed dozens of emerging species into the Galactic Confederation. No one expected what happened next. "Honored representatives," Jack began, his voice carrying a casual tone that immediately set the alien diplomats on edge. "We've been asked to demonstrate some of our technological capabilities." The translation matrices worked overtime, struggling to capture the nuanced informality of human speech. Most emerging species approached such moments with ritualistic formality. Jack Thompson spoke as if he were introducing a minor workplace presentation. With practiced movements, he set the metal case on a standard presentation platform. The alien technological experts ran immediate scanning protocols, expecting complex holographic projections or advanced quantum interfaces. Instead, Jack opened a simple latched case and began assembling what appeared to be a remarkably crude piece of technology. "This," he said, almost as an afterthought, "is a prototype electromagnetic railgun. Basic design, really. Something our military engineers have been tinkering with." The assembled delegates represented species that had mastered faster-than-light travel, controlled gravity, and manipulated complex quantum systems. They watched with a mixture of diplomatic politeness and barely concealed technological superiority. Jack's hands moved with the precision of a skilled engineer, but with a casualness that suggested he was more likely assembling a household appliance than a potentially revolutionary weapon system. Metal components clicked together. Electromagnetic coils were aligned with what seemed like intuitive understanding rather than careful measurement. "We'll be using that target," Jack said, pointing to a reinforced observation platform approximately 2 kilometers away. The platform was constructed from a composite material designed to withstand multiple forms of energy weapon testing, a standard setup used by countless species to demonstrate technological capabilities. No one expected the railgun to do more than provide a basic demonstration. When Jack activated the system, the sound was surprisingly minimal, a low electromagnetic hum that barely registered on the facility's sensitive audio receptors. The projectile, a simple tungsten rod, launched with such velocity that most of the alien sensors failed to track its initial movement. The impact was instantaneous and catastrophic. Where the reinforced observation platform had stood, there was now an expanding cloud of superheated plasma and fragmented materials. The tungsten rod had not merely penetrated the platform. It had effectively ceased to exist as a distinct object, having transferred so much kinetic energy that it became part of the explosion. Absolute silence filled the chamber. Jack Thompson looked up, a slight smile playing across his lips. "Like I said, just a prototype. We're still working out some of the more interesting applications." Commander Zixtal felt something unprecedented in his centuries of diplomatic service. Pure, unadulterated terror. The humans had just demonstrated a weapons technology so far beyond current galactic standards that it fundamentally rewrote every existing understanding of technological development. This was not just a weapon. This was a statement of potential, a raw display of innovative capability that suggested humanity was not an emerging species to be guided, but a potential existential threat to be carefully considered. The diplomatic protocols would need to be completely rewritten. Jack Thompson simply stood there, waiting for questions, looking for all the world like someone who had just completed a mildly interesting home improvement project. The Confederation Research Nexus occupied an entire artificial planetoid, a massive spherical structure that housed the most advanced scientific minds from across the known galaxy. Hundreds of species had contributed to its construction, with technologies refined over millennia of collaborative research. It was the ultimate temple of scientific understanding, a place where the most complex technological challenges were routinely solved. And it was currently experiencing a complete nervous breakdown. Dr. Lyra Vex, lead researcher of the Technological Adaptation Division, stared at the holographic displays with mounting frustration. Weeks of analysis had produced nothing but increasingly bizarre results. The human railgun design defied every known principle of electromagnetic propulsion. "Look at this," she said to her research partner, projecting yet another failed simulation. "The energy transfer calculations are impossible. The material stress tolerances shouldn't work. By all known physics, this device should tear itself apart before firing a single projectile." Her partner, a silicon-based life form named Krant, manipulated the holographic data with 6 tentacle-like appendages. Yet the human demonstration proved it not only works but works with remarkable efficiency. The research teams had been given fragments of the Railguns design, carefully curated by human technical liaisons. What should have been a straightforward reverse engineering project had become a nightmare of scientific complexity. Traditional alien research methodologies involved carefully controlled experiments, multi-species collaboration, and millennia of incremental development. The human approach seemed to be something entirely different, a chaotic blend of intuitive engineering, deliberate innovation, and what could only be described as technological improvisation. In the central research chamber, no fewer than 17 different research teams from 11 distinct species were working on understanding the Railguns' principles. Each team represented the pinnacle of their species' technological understanding. Each team was failing spectacularly. "The electromagnetic coil design," complained a crystalline researcher from the Andromeda cluster. "It defies all known quantum stability principles. The energy transfer should create catastrophic molecular destabilization." Another researcher, this one a gaseous entity contained in a sophisticated environmental suit, added, "Their material selection makes no logical sense. They're using composite materials that should be fundamentally incompatible." Dr. Vex understood something her colleagues were struggling to accept. The human technological approach was not just different. It was fundamentally alien in a way that challenged everything they understood about technological development. The humans seemed to view technological limitations as interesting puzzles to be solved, rather than immutable physical constraints. Where other species would spend decades developing a single technological improvement, humans appeared to iterate and innovate with remarkable speed and apparent recklessness. A breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A junior researcher named Zorn, from a species known for their mathematical prodigies, noticed something peculiar in the Railguns' design schematics. "The inconsistencies," Zorn said, pulling up multiple holographic projections. "They're not errors. They're deliberate design choices." What appeared to be flaws in the design were actually carefully considered engineering solutions. The humans had effectively written an entirely new approach to electromagnetic propulsion, one that deliberately played with the boundaries of known physical principles. Dr. Vex realized they were dealing with something more profound than a new weapon. This was a fundamentally different approach to technological development, one that viewed scientific constraints as challenges to be overcome, rather than immutable laws. The research teams began to fracture. Some researchers became obsessed with understanding the design. Others grew frustrated, their entire scientific worldview challenged by this unexpected approach. Professional reputations were being dismantled with each failed attempt to replicate the technology. "We're not just looking at a weapon," Dr. Vex told the Confederation Research Council. "We're looking at an entirely different philosophical approach to technological innovation." The implications were staggering. If humans could develop something like this railgun with what seemed like casual effort, what other technological marvels might they be capable of creating? As another research simulation collapsed into quantum uncertainty, Dr. Vex understood a fundamental truth. The arrival of humans in the galactic scientific community was going to change everything. Their technological approach was less about following established rules and more about rewriting them entirely. The age of predictable technological development had just come to an abrupt and spectacular end. The Galactic Confederation's central military strategy complex occupied an entire multidimensional space, a vast computational matrix where potential conflict scenarios were analyzed with ruthless mathematical precision. Thousands of species contributed to its intricate network, each bringing centuries of military experience and technological sophistication. On this day, the entire system was in chaos. Admiral Krelnax, a veteran of 17 interstellar conflicts, watched as holographic battle simulations collapsed one after another. The projections all told the same terrifying story. A small human fleet, equipped with their electromagnetic railgun technology, could potentially neutralize entire Confederation battle groups. "Run the simulation again," he commanded, his multiple neural interfaces pulsing with increasing anxiety. The holographic display reconstructed the scenario. A dozen human vessels, nothing more than sleek metallic constructs that looked almost primitive compared to the organic technological hybrids of other species, faced off against a standard Confederation battle formation. The battle lasted less than 7 minutes. Each human vessel carried railgun technology that transformed the very nature of space combat. Traditional energy shields, developed over millennia of defensive technological research, became nothing more than decorative shells. The kinetic projectiles moved at velocities that defied conventional defensive systems, transferring such massive amounts of energy that entire capital ships simply ceased to exist. "This is impossible," muttered Commander Relia, her tentacle-like sensory appendages trembling. "Our defensive matrix has been the standard of galactic security for over 3,000 years." Admiral Krelnax understood the deeper implications. This wasn't just about a new weapon system. This was a complete reimagining of space combat, of technological warfare, of the very principles that had maintained galactic stability for millennia. The human approach to military technology seemed to follow the same chaotic, innovative pattern discovered by the scientific research teams. Where other species developed weapons through careful, incremental research, humans appeared to view technological limitations as interesting challenges to be solved with remarkable creativity. Intelligence reports continued to stream in, each more disturbing than the last. Human military research facilities seemed to operate with a level of creative freedom that bordered on the anarchic. Traditional military hierarchies were replaced by what appeared to be collaborative innovation networks where individual creativity was not just allowed but actively encouraged. "Look at this," said a junior strategic analyst, projecting a series of intercepted human communications. The discussions read more like collaborative problem-solving sessions than traditional military planning. Engineers, scientists, and military personnel discussed technological challenges with a level of informal creativity that was completely alien to the structured Confederation approach. The simulations continued to run, each iteration reinforcing the same terrifying conclusion. A relatively small human technological force could potentially challenge the entire established galactic military order. Admiral Krelnax called an emergency session of the Confederation Military Council. The holographic chamber filled with representatives from dozens of species, each more concerned than the last. "We are facing a fundamental shift in military technology," he began, projecting the battle simulations. "The humans have not just developed a new weapon. They have reimagined the entire concept of technological warfare." The representatives watched in stunned silence as human vessels demolished carefully constructed defensive formations with what seemed like casual efficiency. The railgun was more than a weapon. It was a statement of technological potential. What made the situation even more alarming was the humans' apparent lack of concern. The military demonstrations seemed almost like afterthoughts, as if the technological capabilities were simply interesting engineering challenges rather than revolutionary military developments. "They're not even trying," whispered one delegate, a sentiment that captured the growing sense of unease. The humans weren't presenting these technologies as threats. They were simply sharing them, as if discussing an interesting weekend project. As the simulation concluded, Admiral Krelnax realized something profound. The arrival of humans in the galactic military landscape was going to change everything. Their approach to technology, to innovation, to the very concept of conflict, was fundamentally different from anything the Confederation had ever encountered. The age of predictable military strategy had just come to an end. Humanity was about to rewrite the rules of galactic conflict, and they seemed completely unaware of the revolutionary nature of their own potential. The Galactic Confederation's primary diplomatic facility was a marvel of architectural engineering. Constructed on a massive artificial planetoid, its crystalline halls had witnessed the resolution of conflicts spanning thousands of years. Entire star systems had been negotiated into peaceful coexistence within these walls. Amanda Roberts looked completely unimpressed. She stood at the center of the grand negotiation chamber, a lone human representative surrounded by delegations from over 50 different alien species. Her tailored blue suit seemed almost deliberately mundane compared to the flowing, bioluminescent robes and complex environmental suits of the alien diplomats. Commander Zixtal watched from the primary diplomatic platform, multiple eyes tracking her every movement. The preliminary reports had suggested Amanda Roberts was a mid-level diplomatic representative. The reality before him suggested something entirely different. "We understand your concerns," Amanda began, her voice carrying a tone that was simultaneously respectful and subtly dismissive regarding our recent technological demonstrations. The translation matrices worked overtime, struggling to capture the nuanced diplomacy of her speech. Most emerging species approached such moments with deference or anxiety. Amanda Roberts spoke as if discussing a relatively routine matter. The Confederation's lead diplomatic arbiter, a crystalline entity named Vorlex, projected a holographic display showing multiple scenarios of potential human technological escalation. "Your recent demonstrations suggest capabilities that fundamentally challenge galactic technological protocols. We require assurances of technological limitation." Amanda raised an eyebrow. It was a small gesture, but it sent a ripple of tension through the entire diplomatic chamber. "Limitations," she repeated, as if the word itself was somewhat amusing. "I'm afraid you may have misunderstood our position." What followed was a masterclass in diplomatic complexity that left the alien representatives simultaneously impressed and terrified. Amanda began to outline humanity's approach to technological development, not as a threat, but as a fundamental expression of human creativity. She spoke about the railgun not as a weapon, but as an engineering challenge. She described human innovation as a collaborative process where individual creativity was not just allowed but actively encouraged. The alien diplomats heard something unprecedented, a species that viewed technological development as a form of cultural expression. The railgun demonstration, Amanda explained, was essentially a proof of concept, a basic prototype, if you will. The word basic hung in the air like a potential threat. Vorlex's crystalline structure momentarily flickered, the diplomatic equivalent of a sharp intake of breath. "Basic? You destroyed a reinforced observation platform with a basic prototype." Amanda's smile was both apologetic and slightly predatory. "We're still working out some of the more interesting applications." The diplomatic chamber became a pressure cooker of tension. The alien representatives began to realize that they were not dealing with a species to be controlled or guided. Humanity was presenting itself as a technological force that would define its own trajectory. Intelligence reports began to stream in through private diplomatic channels. Human research facilities operated with a level of creative freedom that bordered on the anarchic. Traditional technological development hierarchies were replaced by collaborative innovation networks where individual creativity was not just permitted but actively celebrated. "We are not seeking conflict," Amanda continued, her voice calm and measured. "We are simply pursuing our technological potential. The fact that this potential might be unexpectedly advanced is somewhat incidental." Commander Zixtal understood something profound in that moment. The humans were not presenting their technological capabilities as a threat. They were simply sharing them, as casually as one might discuss an interesting weekend project. The diplomatic protocols would need to be completely rewritten. As the session concluded, the alien delegates were left with a growing sense of both terror and grudging respect. Humanity had just introduced itself to the galactic community, not as a species to be controlled, but as a potential technological force that would reshape understanding itself. Amanda Roberts collected her materials, nodded politely to the assembled diplomats, and walked out of the chamber, leaving behind a diplomatic landscape that would never be the same again. The research and development nexus of the Galactic Confederation stretched across 3 interconnected star systems, a testament to millennia of collaborative technological innovation. Thousands of the most brilliant minds from hundreds of species worked in perfect synchronization, pursuing technological advancement with methodical precision. And they were completely falling apart. Michael Chung stood in the observation chamber, watching as yet another alien research team struggled to comprehend human technological principles. He looked distinctly out of place, a human engineer in a facility designed for multiple physiological configurations, wearing a simple graphite gray jumpsuit that seemed almost deliberately unremarkable. "You're approaching the problem incorrectly," he said, not as a challenge, but as a matter of simple observation. The lead researcher, a multi-limbed entity from the Carina Nebula, turned all 7 of its sensory organs toward Michael. "Explain," it demanded, the translation matrix rendering the word with a mixture of frustration and desperate curiosity. Michael walked to the holographic display, his fingers dancing across the interface with an intuitive grace that seemed to defy the complex technological systems. Where alien researchers saw impenetrable complexity, he saw elegant solutions. "Your design assumes technological development follows a linear progression," he explained. "Humans don't work that way. We view technological challenges as puzzles to be solved through creative disruption." The research teams had been given fragments of human technological designs, carefully curated samples that were meant to provide insight without revealing everything. What should have been a straightforward reverse engineering project had become a comprehensive reimagining of technological development itself. Confederation species began launching unprecedented collaborative efforts to develop countermeasures to human technological capabilities. Research facilities that had previously been segregated by species and specialized technological domains now worked in frantic, almost desperate collaboration. Each attempt failed more spectacularly than the last. The human approach to innovation defied every established principle of technological development. Where other species develop technologies through careful, incremental research, humans seem to view technological limitations as interesting challenges to be solved with remarkable creativity and apparent recklessness. Intercepted human research communications revealed something even more alarming. Their technological discussions read more like collaborative problem-solving sessions than traditional research protocols. Engineers, scientists, and developers from completely different domains discussed technological challenges with a level of informal creativity that was completely alien to the structured Confederation approach. "Look at this communication thread," said a crystalline researcher, projecting a series of human technical discussions. "They're treating fundamental physical limitations as suggestions." Michael Chang's presence in the research facility was itself a form of technological provocation. He didn't explain their technologies so much as demonstrate them, revealing solutions that left the alien researchers simultaneously frustrated and awestruck. A breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A junior researcher named Zorn noticed something profound in the human approach to technological development. The inconsistencies in human design were not errors. They were deliberately innovative solutions that played with the boundaries of known physical principles. The Confederation realized they were facing something more than a technological challenge. This was a fundamental reimagining of how technological innovation could occur. Human research facilities seemed to operate with a level of creative freedom that bordered on the anarchic. Traditional research hierarchies were replaced by collaborative innovation networks where individual creativity was not just allowed but actively encouraged. "We're not just looking at new technologies," Michael explained during one particularly tense research session. "We're looking at an entirely different philosophical approach to solving technological challenges." The implications were staggering. If humans could develop technologies like the railgun with what seemed like casual effort, what other technological marvels might they be capable of creating? As another sophisticated alien research simulation collapsed into quantum uncertainty, the research teams began to understand a fundamental truth. The arrival of humans in the galactic scientific community was going to change everything. Their technological approach was less about following established rules and more about rewriting them entirely. Michael Chang watched the research teams with a mixture of patience and barely concealed amusement. To the humans, this wasn't about demonstrating superiority. This was simply how they approached challenges, with creativity, collaboration, and a fundamental belief that no technological limitation was truly absolute. The age of predictable technological development had just come to an abrupt and spectacular end. The Void Serpent emerged from hyperspatial distortion, its massive biomechanical hull a testament to 3,000 years of technological evolution. The Krellnax Imperium had never known defeat. Their adaptive biological warfare systems had crushed countless civilizations across multiple galactic sectors. They were about to meet their first true challenge. Commander Zixtal watched the incoming threat analysis with a growing sense of existential dread. The massive biomechanical warship represented a species that had systematically conquered entire star systems. No defensive network had ever successfully repelled a full Krellnax invasion. Until now, the human response was nothing short of revolutionary. Where traditional galactic defense protocols would involve massive fleet deployments and complex defensive matrices, the human strategy was devastatingly simple and impossibly complex. A single human communications specialist named Rebecca Martinez sat at a modified command interface that looked more like an advanced gaming setup than a military control center. Her fingers danced across multiple holographic displays, weaving an intricate technological defense that defied every known principle of electronic warfare. The Krellnax invasion fleet found itself systematically dismantled not through traditional weapons, but through a comprehensive technological assault that targeted their most fundamental systems. Communication networks collapsed. Navigation systems became unreliable. Biomechanical adaptive systems began to work against the invasion fleet, turning their own technological advantages into catastrophic vulnerabilities. "We're not fighting them," Rebecca explained to the stunned Confederation observers. "We're solving them like a complex puzzle." Each human intervention was a masterclass of technological creativity. Where other species saw insurmountable challenges, humans saw interesting problems to be solved with remarkable ingenuity. The Confederation's military strategists watched in stunned silence as the human team systematically neutralized the most technologically advanced invasion force in known galactic history. The Krellnax weren't just being defeated, they were being comprehensively understood and neutralized. Commander Zixtal realized something profound. Humanity's true strength wasn't in their weapons. It was in their ability to understand, adapt, and innovate with breathtaking speed. Intercepted Krellnax communications revealed their growing terror. These humans weren't just defending. They were actively reconfiguring entire technological paradigms in real time. Complex biomechanical defense systems that had conquered thousands of civilizations became nothing more than interesting engineering challenges. The human team worked with a level of collaborative creativity that was completely alien to hierarchical military structures. Engineers, programmers, mathematicians, and strategic analysts worked in a fluid network that seemed to anticipate technological challenges before they fully manifested. "We're not fighting a war," one human team member commented during a brief communication intercept. were debugging the complex system. As the invasion was neutralized, something unprecedented happened. The surviving Krellnax leadership requested direct communication with human representatives, not as conquerors, not as defeated enemies, but as potential collaborators. The humans' approach to the potential communication was itself a form of diplomatic innovation. Where other species would prepare formal diplomatic responses, the human team treated the situation as an interesting cross-cultural problem-solving exercise. Rebecca Martinez, who had been the primary architect of the defensive strategy, prepared to lead the initial communication efforts. Her preparation involved not military briefings, but collaborative sessions that approached the challenge with a mixture of scientific curiosity and creative problem-solving. Commander Zixtal watched the developing scenario with a mixture of terror and growing respect. Humanity wasn't just defending itself. It was fundamentally rewriting the rules of technological conflict, diplomatic engagement, and species interaction. The Confederation realized that humans weren't just another emerging species to be categorized and controlled. They were a fundamental force of technological and cultural innovation that would reshape galactic understanding. As the final stages of the conflict resolved, the human team celebrated not with traditional military ceremonies, but with what appeared to be a collaborative problem-solving session. Laughter, creative discussions, and a sense of shared achievement replaced formal military protocols. The Krellnax invasion had become something else entirely, a pivotal moment that would be remembered as the point where humanity introduced itself to the galaxy not as a military force, but as a species of unparalleled creative potential. Commander Zixtal understood a fundamental truth. The arrival of humans in the galactic community was going to change everything. And they seemed completely unaware of just how revolutionary they truly were. The Galactic Convergence Hall stood as a testament to millennia of interstellar diplomacy. Constructed at the gravitational nexus of three major star systems, its crystalline architecture had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. Today, it would witness something unprecedented. Commander Zixtal arrived early, his multiple sensory organs scanning the preparations with a mixture of anticipation and lingering anxiety. The human delegation would be arriving soon, and nothing would ever be the same again. The past cycles had fundamentally reshaped galactic understanding. Humanity had not just entered the interstellar community, they had effectively rewritten its entire operational manual. The railgun that had first caught the Confederation's attention now seemed almost quaint, a simple demonstration of a far more profound technological philosophy. Humanity's true power lay not in any single weapon or technological marvel, but in their approach to problem-solving itself. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, lead human representative, entered the hall with a casual grace that seemed to challenge the very concept of formal diplomatic protocol. Her presentation materials looked more like a creative workshop setup than a traditional diplomatic briefing. "We're here to collaborate," she began, her words translated across multiple sophisticated linguistic matrices, "not to compete." The assembled delegates represented species that had existed in complex galactic relationships for thousands of years. They had developed intricate diplomatic protocols, technological exchange mechanisms, and carefully balanced power structures. Humanity was about to deconstruct all of that, not through military might, but through sheer creative potential. Dr. Rodriguez began to outline humanity's approach to technological and cultural development. It wasn't a presentation of achievements, but an invitation to a new way of thinking. Where other species saw technological challenges as problems to be solved through established methodologies, humans saw them as interesting puzzles with potentially infinite solutions. The Confederation's historical records were being systematically rewritten. The initial fear of human technological capabilities had transformed into a growing recognition of their unique potential. Humanity had demonstrated an ability to solve challenges that had stymied galactic civilizations for millennia, not through superior firepower, but through creative reimagination. Intercepted human communications continued to baffle diplomatic analysts. Their research discussions read more like collaborative creative sessions than traditional scientific exchanges. Engineers, Artists, mathematicians, and developers worked in fluid networks that defied traditional hierarchical structures. "We're not interested in domination," Dr. Rodriguez explained, her presentation shifting between technical diagrams, creative conceptual models, and collaborative frameworks. "We're interested in solving interesting problems." The assembled delegates began to understand something profound. Humanity's technological demonstrations, the railgun, the defensive strategies against the Krellnax invasion, the systematic deconstruction of established technological paradigms, were not displays of military might. They were expressions of a fundamental cultural approach to understanding the universe. Commander Zixtal realized that humanity represented something entirely new in galactic civilization. They were not conquerors. They were not even traditional explorers. They were problem solvers, a species that viewed every technological and cultural challenge as an interesting puzzle to be solved through creativity, collaboration, and a fundamental belief that no limitation was truly absolute. The diplomatic hall became a crucible of potential. Species that had been historical rivals found themselves drawn into collaborative discussions initiated by human representatives. Complex interstellar conflicts that had existed for centuries were being reimagined not as zero-sum competitions, but as interesting challenges to be solved together. Dr. Rodriguez's final presentation slide captured the essence of humanity's approach. It wasn't a technical diagram or a strategic framework. It was a simple question: what interesting problem shall we solve together? The Galactic Confederation was about to undergo its most fundamental transformation in thousands of years. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had invited it to collaborate. As the session concluded, Commander Zixtal understood a fundamental truth. The arrival of humans in the galactic community was not the beginning of a new era of conflict. It was the dawn of a new approach to understanding existence itself. Humanity had introduced itself to the galaxy, not as a threat, not as a species to be controlled, but as a fundamental force of creative potential. And they seemed completely unaware of just how revolutionary they truly were. The universe would never be the same again.